Hey folks, I'm Pete Lewis. This is Claire Church. This is Muse Talks. Today we have guest artist John Stoltzman, very esteemed piano player, jazz player, composer, who I met maybe 10 years ago now in Adam Barczyk's big band. And we're so glad that you could join us. These talks are about finding a little bit more about you, what you're doing to survive the pandemic. You know, now gigs are gone and things. Are you surviving? Are you doing okay? Is your family okay? And also for you to tell us what's been going on, maybe musically, if you have some CDs to talk about, some projects coming up, and also if you would play a little bit for us. So would you
Cool.
mind starting off with that? Maybe play a tune?
Sure,
Okay.
sure. Uh, l- yeah, I should have prepared something more, but
Something.
I let's see. I actually was practicing this Chick Corea piece yesterday, so I can play it with a student who's a vibes player, and unfortunately on Zoom there's too much lag to actually play at the same time. So
Uh,
I'm like recording myself playing it and then sending him the recording, and then he can play along with the recording.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see how that works. But you want me to switch into my
sure, that'd be cool.
overhead shot here? This is
Watch
what I
this.
use for teaching, and it's a pretty nice shot actually
Uh,
of the keys. So I have my Yamaha NU1 here set up. It's a digital hybrid. I love this piano,
Product.
uh, almost mostly because it never goes out of tune, but also it just feels and it sounds great. And it has volume, and it has headphones, and it has MIDI and audio in and out. And so I've got this routed now into my laptop and going through Logic. So you're actually getting my Yamaha Grand Sound in Logic,
oh, that's
not the NU1 sound. It's a little bit, less quality in terms of the piano sound, but in terms of the sound that you get in your audio, it's like you're really hearing the sound of what I'm playing, rather than like the
Do a mic.
compressed audio through a mic. Yeah,
Yeah.
even in using my USB mic and disabling the noise suppression uh, settings in the audio preferences in Zoom, still like piano sound, really any audio is compromised. You can make it so it's like, it's feasible. So for lessons and classes, it's okay. But this routing it through Logic and having the Logic go through the Zoom audio works so much better for the audio quality that you get.
great.
Thank you.
Yeah, just life in the time of coronavirus here.
Hmm.
Mm.
We have to figure these things out, right? Hey, by the way, if anybody, I've been a tech support for quite a few different people now, friends and family members, and I'm happy to offer whatever support I can to
That's great.
musicians out there if people want to be in touch with me. I'm not like a super duper tech expert, but I can work my way around things pretty well. And then actually I learn things and often come up with solutions that I didn't realize I needed in the process. So it's helpful for me sometimes too.
Cool.
All right, so I'll play a little bit for you. This is a Chick Corea song called Love Castle.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
All
Wow,
right,
that was amazing.
something like that.
It's
I
it,
haven't been playing a lot, so it's hard to stay. It's hard to stay fresh.
um it almost sounded impressionistic. Some of the voicings you were using in your right hand on that tag. I don't
Uh
know.
huh.
I don't know. It just reminded me of that. It was beautiful.
Uh huh.
Well, I would
Yeah.
assume that there is some. I know for a fact that there are some major classical musicians in your background, in your family. So
Yep.
yeah, I'm assuming that you played classical before jazz.
It's a funny thing, just in terms of the impressionistic thing. First of all, that's Chick's tune. So that's this thing.
We're not.
Uh,
Yeah, that's Chick, but uh,
oh.
it's totally. Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, we lost
Couldn't
your
hear.
keyboard sound
Yeah.
just now.
Oh, uh,
Beyond the share.
okay. Is it like gone?
It was gone. We heard some. It was like Guitar Hero. Now we get to see you mess with Zoom. So we're sharing. We're seeing.
Oh, shit. Sorry, I stopped the share.
We'll
There
talk.
we go.
It'll be okay. So,
Okay, so, here I can. So that's the live audio sound of my piano through the mic. I don't know what it sounds like on your end.
it's fine. You know that
Okay,
I
cool.
was listening, watching you improvise. It is super cool. First of all, to be able to watch you play from
Hmm.
above. That is cool. It really is. And I would feel a little intimidated if that was me, having people watch my my technique. But it's cool. But I was gonna say those chord changes sound tricky.
Yeah, they are, and it's in the key of A.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, it's a beast of a tune to navigate and really stay with it. Like I said, I just was pulled that out to play with a student. So yeah, it's not a tune that's really performance ready, but it was on my music stand this morning. So I was like, oh yeah, okay, well, if I'm gonna play a tune, I'll play that.
So,
But
so I was asking you before we even started recording. Peter, you go by Peter John Stoltzman, and can you give us a little more background on your name?
Yeah, and that goes into the kind of the classical background in my family. So, yeah, both my parents are very high level classical musicians. Of course, my father is a Grammy winning clarinet player, Richard Stoltzman,
Yeah.
and and my mother is a violinist, Lucy Chapman, and um, she has had really should have had as prolific a career as my dad, but had to do the sacrificing of her career in some ways, and went more into the teaching side of it. And she was one of the head teachers at New England Conservatory for 20 years, and
Wow.
just retired like 2 years ago. Um, and but she was the first violin in the Muse string quartet, which is one based in Boston, and the chamber master of the San Francisco Symphony, and uh, you know all sorts of really
Wow.
cool stuff. And she still teaches at the Marlboro Chamber Music Festival in the summers, and does private teaching just for fun. And she's up in Vermont with my sister. So anyway, that all ties into the fact that I've had obviously like an upbringing surrounded by classical music, and like super heavy, the highest level of classical music,
Yeah.
Richard Good, and hanging out in our house and rehearsing and listening to people like that play scales. We lived down the street from Yo-Yo Ma, and my dad won a Grammy with Yo-Yo, and we used to hang out with their family, and I'd listen to them play together, and so I always had classical music in my ear, and you could imagine, like, from the time I was in the womb developing, like my mother's practicing all the time and playing in the orchestra, and my parents are playing together, and so that music is definitely like inside me. It's physically in my body. Um, in terms of my actual practicing and studying background, I basically have zero classical training.
Hmm.
I started in the Suzuki method, which is kind of semi-classical, but it's not really classical. It's like, you know, Froggy jumps over pond song, right? And you go like, I'm swinging it already. I can't swing. I'm just making that up. But it's that kind of stuff. And I learned these songs when I was a kid, like 6, 7, 8 years old, basically by rote, like watching my teacher play it.
Yeah.
And then I would use the music as just a kind of a reference, like a reminder of what was going on. But I didn't really learn to sight read very well because I was learning it by ear and by watching her do it. And that teacher was a wonderful, wonderful teacher. Her name was Myrna Thomas, and she told my parents before we left California when I was 8, this kid needs to improvise.
Mm.
And sure enough, we moved to Boston. I turned 9. My parents tried to get me with a classical teacher. I went into lessons for maybe half a year, and I just hated it and wanted to quit. And so my parents found me a jazz teacher at like 10 years old. Her name was Nancy Kennedy, and she's an amazing educator, great jazz pianist who lived in Cambridge, Massachusetts at the time, then moved to the West Coast. But I studied with her for a few years, and she really laid the foundation for me, learning, Pete, what was that tune? It was Pete Johnson? It was was it James P. Johnson tune called Rollin' Pete, I think? It just like, this kind of stuff, right? And then like learning all my basic 2/5s and things like that, and learning to read lead sheets and play jazz. And then I just progressed from there and kept studying jazz. And honestly, I never really filled in that classical background void. Um, once I got once I got proficient enough at the instrument where I could actually play classical music for real, um, I started learning some pieces to play with my parents. And when I went to Berklee College of Music, I had to learn a classical piece every semester. So I learned 8 classical pieces. And
Well, in terms of the repertoire, I guess you feel like you're behind, but in terms of the technique, I feel like you probably have. It looks to me like, it sounds to me like you have very solid technique.
yeah, so what happened was my first year at Berklee, I completely broke down. I had tendonitis, massive tendonitis. I
Oh,
was playing, leaning back, and I was playing, pounding like this on the piano.
Wow.
And what that does is it totally stresses out your tendons up here, not to mention what's going on underneath as well. And and so found um, I found my way out of that through a lot of different things, through lifestyle changes. Uh, Although that was a long process over a handful of years, including my time in New York after college. It really took me until about 25 to get cleaned up enough where I was really treating my body in a way that it was happy with,
Mm.
you know, and then also like energy healing and massage techniques. I went to a Reiki person, and I went to various types of massage. I also saw chiropractors, and I still see chiropractors once in a while. And and then like really started on my spiritual journey as well. And I think that was important for me to feel like I knew what my own kind of core drive was, and the thing that happened in that spiritual search that was probably the most profound shift for me was that a lot of the shoulds in my life became clear of like why I wanted them, and rather than feeling like obligations, they felt like self-directed goals. And that was really crucial shift. And so, but then in terms of just actually playing the physical piano, what happened was I finally got with my guru teacher, whose name was Charlie Banakis. A lot of people have heard of Charlie. He died way too young. He was in his mid-50s and died from a brain tumor that just like knocked him out in a matter of weeks when they finally found it. But Charlie was a guru to so many people, including Chick, and basically everybody who came up through Boston. Danilo Perez, Mike Stern. And he did correspondence or lessons with people all across the country. And Charlie was just a brilliant, incredible cat. And he dedicated his life to teaching jazz. And he was a subscriber to the method really outlined by Abby Whiteside in her huge tome. It's like a Lord of the Rings piano book called The Indispensables of Piano Playing.
Mm-hmm.
And Abby Whiteside was one of these, just incredible piano pedagogues from the kind of earlier part of the 20th century. And so her method was based around kind of a fulcrum ideation of the physicality of the body. So if you look at your fulcrum system here, it's almost like a Fibonacci kind of sequence, right? You have this like tiny fulcrum right here, which you really can't. You really can't. You can, but you really can't play a note with just that. And then you have this one, right? And then you have this one, and you can see like it's getting bigger, and each fulcrum is incorporating the last, right? And so if you focus your power on the larger fulcrums, it incorporates all it gives more weight and force to all the smaller ones, and takes the power, takes the strain out of the system of the smaller ones. So then we have the wrist, right? And then you have the elbow, and then you have the rotating shoulder and socket joint. And this is like the most important one. Then of course beyond that is the waist. So you can see that like, it's like that Fibonacci spiral kind of thing, right? But if you use your shoulder and socket joint to generate the forward motion, then all the other motions that happen within that, your wrist going up a little bit, your elbow going forward, your fingers going down into the keys. So you can see this is two motion. One scale up is two motions. 1, 2. You see that?
Yeah.
1, 2. And you see how much effort that is? It's like this much, right? It's like vroom, vroom, like that with my
That's great.
shoulder socket. And so that really was a complete revolution physically for me at the piano, and it saved me from future injury. I basically have never had an injury, a playing injury since. And fingers crossed. I know there are all sorts of injuries that we can't even anticipate, and like you, Claire, like, dystonia. My good friend Julian Lage, old friend I should say, he's not currently a good friend, but went through focal dystonia and lost the ability to play the guitar for a little while.
Yeah,
he got it back.
It's I think hand dystonia is an easier nut to crack than what I have, and what I have is no longer task specific. It was task specific. I think it started out task specific. It might have only just shown up in my playing and was everywhere all the time. But I first noticed it in my playing. But because mine is more like a chronic version called cranial dystonia. So it's like
Mm.
masseters, temporalis, SCMs, basically everything from the neck up is involved. But the worst for me is jaw, because it's super painful. Um, but
Yeah.
yeah, so I mean, I did try for about 5 years to get my playing back, and I went to all kinds of people. I went to Jan Kagerice at UNT. I went to David Vining in Michigan. They're all specialists in dystonia. I went to a place in Sevilla with this guy, Joaquin Farias, very well
Wow.
known. We went to Terrassa, Spain to go to the Institute Physiologia of Music and
Mm-hmm.
Art. And they gave me a whole program. And somewhere around 5 years after diagnosis, I was getting pretty good on the drums. And
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I don't know if I can just keep beating this poor dead horse because it's
Yeah.
just heartbreaking. It was just crushing to keep trying and keep failing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, at this point, I'm just treating the chronic disorder to try to keep a reasonably good quality of life. And
Yeah.
the cool thing is drumming eliminates almost all the spasms. Something about what's going on in my brain, it
Mm-hmm.
eliminates almost all the spasms. And I was thinking about what you're saying because I want to keep playing the drums, and there's some physical wear and tear involved in that instrument. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm really going to think about what you said and try to put that to use. And anyway, enough about me.
Cool, cool. No, I mean, I think these conversations are best when they're, both personally and universal.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and
And
I think
other
your
people
story is
can
really important.
learn from this stuff. So, Peter,
Yeah.
just in general during this pandemic, are you doing okay? Your family okay? How have you been getting through each day? And
Yeah. Well, I have a lot to be grateful for, and a lot that I'm very fortunate, uh, very, very fortunate economically. I got hired for two adjunct teaching gigs. One that was just over half time at CSU, so that was allowing my family medical
oh, wow,
benefits.
that's cool.
Great.
And I'm also teaching a handful of students at Metro and Metropolitan State University. And so uh, those paychecks are coming in, and I'm doing all of my teaching online.
Wow.
So it's a stretch to figure out how to do all that online. Lessons are one thing, but teaching a jazz piano class and a combo
Yeah.
and a 44-person music and technology class,
Mhm.
like sitting here.
Yeah. I have two high school big bands, four fifth grade bands, and the
Yeah,
college jazz technology class, which is completely hands on,
yeah,
completely. So
yeah.
I'm with you.
And
So all of that hands-on.
you
Sorry.
mentioned a couple kids at home.
Yeah, I have a couple of kids, 12 and 9 years old, and one with severe dyslexia who needs, has kind of classic special needs associated with that. And so yeah, it's like I'm in this position where I'm super fortunate to have my work still and to have the paychecks, right? I just got paychecks. How many musicians just got like decent paychecks?
Yeah.
Not a lot, man.
Yeah.
And it's weighing really, really heavy on my mind and my heart. Really, very heavy. One of the things that I almost immediately started making inquiries about and thinking about doing myself was to spearhead some fundraising, and it's still on the back burner for me as a possibility. If we go further into this, people need support with rent and groceries and gas, and I mean that nobody has income, and unfortunately our economic structures in this society are just not set up to support people who can't support themselves.
Right.
And that goes, that goes for people who are, unable to work for whatever reason, for disabilities or just age or, uh, you know, whatever. And that goes for, people who are displaced, and people who have barrier issues in terms of language barriers and skill barriers, and I mean it's just for basically my entire mature life, I've been extremely frustrated and off and on an activist about the economy, because I just feel like it's just so brutal. And I see people on comment threads being like, "Well, you should have, and they could have, and whatever," and it's just like the whole energy of that paradigm has filtered through into people's perceptions of each other that are just brutal.
I've said this, I agree with you, and I've said this for such a long time. Like, we as a society, we have to take care of the people who cannot take care of themselves. And the fact that they cannot take care of themselves very likely is through no fault of their own. Yeah. If you are mentally ill, you cannot take care of yourself. If you are, we have to. I actually heard a thing on the radio they were interviewing a woman who, her father has the coronavirus. So she is self-quarantining for 14 days. And her employer said if she stays out of work more than 7 days, she will be fired. What the actual?
This is happening all over the country right now to millions and millions of people. And it's just like it's an outgrowth of what was already happening, right?
Yeah.
But I've got my fingers very tightly crossed that because the brutality of this economic system that we live in, the paradigm that we're ruled by, is going to be in the faces of a bunch of middle and even higher income, middle class and upper class people, that I'm just hoping that we will have some significant shifts structurally in our society to support people better. But right now, and with the leadership that we have federally, it's just it's like impossible, and it just makes me want to weep and throw shit.
Do you have something to say?
I just want to say, so people that are listening, there are a lot of ways that you can help. These Muse talks, we're trying to take as much of the money as we can and give it back to musicians. Peter has generously offered to donate his whatever donations come in today to other musicians or to the Muse, and we're really trying to give, right now we're trying to give it to the musicians. And there's also the Muse is curating the stage at this festival called Uncanceled, and they're giving 25%. They're giving 45% of the proceeds to the artists that perform, but they're giving 25% to Music Cares. I believe I might be misstating these percentages, but so that might be something you can check into, is this Uncanceled Music Festivals, because they're helping, or just go to Music Cares.
There is something set up in Denver as well.
Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of the musicians in the Denver area actually live outside of Denver Metro proper.
Yeah.
And they're not eligible to apply for the Denver grants.
Yeah, I noticed the one in Boulder, they're not accepting anymore.
Boulder too.
They're tapped out. But we can all help. I mean, yeah, Pete was trying to set up a GoFundMe Musicians Relief thing. And actually, I should mention Cafe Soleil is doing something, just food. They're doing a food. How are they doing? They're delivering food, or?
Yeah, to Sister Carmen.
To Sister Carmen. So, I don't know. We're all trying to find ways, and gosh, I suppose we should leave it at that and listen to some music. Or do you have something?
I've been asking some people, like, so here we are. Do you think that things are going to go back to like the way they were, or is this like going to cause a shift? Like you were talking, maybe economically, it's going to cause a shift, maybe for the positive. I mean, the darkness we're going through now, but maybe on the other end, will things be better? And what about musically and all us musicians? Do you think there'll be a shift positively, or is it the same, or where do you see this going?
I mean, it's it's so complicated, right? I think think about different aspects of it, at different times of the day. I was thinking about how like, damn, I'm like not playing any gigs now, and that was really like my motivation to practice. And I'm just like so busy with the kids. I mean, every waking minute that I'm not in here doing some teaching or something, I've got somebody who wants my time and attention, and cooking meals and cleaning up and blah blah blah. So it's really hard for me to get time at the piano right now, and I feel so rusty. When I'm playing, so rusty. But there are some cats out there who are practicing their asses off right now because they don't really have a lot else to do. They don't have family and whatever. So, I was thinking there's going to be like a certain percentage of our jazz community that comes out of this just like next level. And that's
Practicing a lot more technique during this time. I've been taking more time on the small things than I used to be able to, and I think I wouldn't say next level, but I'm gonna be definitely I'm gonna gain some chops after.
Yeah. So that's one little positive. I don't know, man, but I'm trying to definitely think about my role and what what I need to do individually, and also what I can do as part of the community. So one of the projects I've been working on this year is to start a company, and we started an LLC first, and we're going to apply for nonprofit status soon. Our company is called Plug In Music, and I've got a business partner in Arvada who has a studio, and we are working. Our focus is on mentorship, and really giving access to resources. Mentorship being the number one resource that can apply to music education, so and also to the studio itself, and also just to community, to get tied into community. So we are starting with this pilot program that we called Music Bridges program, and we implemented it in Aurora Public School that had lost its funding for music, and wanted to have at least one day of music in their school. So I trained 3 teachers who already had some teaching chops to varying degrees, and they're wonderful young musicians, and they did an amazing job going into the school and teaching drums and keyboard and choir, and then this came. So now we're like revamping what we're doing and doing it. So we're going to shoot videos and do it online. We're going to create a play along version of Lean on Me, and do the video thing, the Brady Bunch video thing, where everybody has squares, and we're going to send it to them. And any parents that can film their kids or film their family singing or playing along, then we're going to stitch those all together into a video at the end, and have it be, like a unifying thing for the community to be involved in.
Very cool.
So I think, those little things will be cool. And with that company, what I'm hoping is that once we emerge from the social distancing, really the lockdown aspect of this, then we can meet in at least small groups at the studio, and we're getting set up so that we have really good sound to stream, and we can live stream playing, rehearsing, and record it at the same time in the studio. I'm sure you're thinking of the same thing through Muse.
We're doing
live streaming shows.
And we're getting more and more set up for that, and we'll use it even after we open. We're going to be doing more of that.
Nice. Yeah, so I just I want to offer opportunities, and I want to get us like transitioning into this emergent paradigm, which was already emerging just very slowly. And this is like kind of, I feel like we're just getting like pushed over a speed bump that we were going like really slow over, but now it's like, bleh, there you go, next phase of this like emergent paradigm of like integrated technology into a lot of what we do in music.
Make sure you send me any links that you want me to, when we post this, that you would like embedded in there, you know, about your company or
Great,
CDs
thank you.
you'd have for sale and things like that.
It
So
sounds like people are eating in the other room without Peter, so we need to like
yeah.
get him.
Well, thank you so much, man. It's been
Yeah.
so informative and fun talk, you know, and chatting with you and seeing you. And
Yeah, thank you.
yeah, I can't wait to see you play soon. So,
Yeah, man. Can we link to your Venmo or to
Yeah,
whatever it is that you're using?
we forgot to do this little commercial. This is this, and then we'll put it in the post. You can always contribute via Venmo or on our website. But we
yeah.
just
Great.
really grateful to talk to you. It's really a pleasure.
Great, thanks, guys. And yeah, if anybody wants to connect with me further, whether it's about instruction, I mean, one of the things I'm thinking about is creating group instruction on Zoom like this. It's working pretty well actually in my jazz piano class.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I'll be teaching for Gift of Jazz, and we're looking for enrollment. So, and Pete, you said you just signed up, right?
Good. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Gift of Jazz is an adult jazz ed nonprofit, Denver-based, and I've been doing these sessions in person. And our third session is going to be all online. So I'm going to do like a jazz theory, advanced jazz theory class, and if it's seriously advanced cats, man, we can go as deep as we want to go, and we'll make it project based
He's
and
pretty.
very individualized, and and it'll just be fun. It'll be like a jazz hang and really digging into in depth into topics in jazz theory. And I'm also doing a jazz piano class through that, focused on solo piano. Again, very individualized and project based, and
Cool.
yeah, so a lots of cool stuff. And my website has a sign up thing for my mailing list. So if you want to be in touch, I don't send out a lot of emails, but a few times a year I send something out, and it's nice to be in touch and to have that community there. So
All right.
Sounds
Cool.
great, man.
All right. We're gonna let you go, and
all
we'll
right, you guys,
look forward to posting this and letting people hear you.
great. Thanks
Thanks.
a lot.
Thanks,
Take
Peter.
care.